In today's video, I want to go over a very interesting interview that Atlus brand owner Naoto Hiroka had at the Taipei Game Show 2019 with GNN Gamer, talking a lot about the future of the Persona franchise and the potential of Persona 3 and Persona 4 possibly coming to the PlayStation 4, as well as the success of Persona 5. I know that first bit of Persona 3 and 4 possibly coming to the PlayStation 4 has a lot of you guys excited, so I'll give you guys my input on that. Unfortunately, Super Meat Boy Forever was scheduled to drop sometime this month, but it has been delayed from its April 2019 release window. A post has been put out by the Super Meat Boy team, and I do want to go over that. Also, there's a pretty significant gameplay change coming to Borderlands 3, and it's a very exciting one for me, and especially if you're playing in cooperative play, it's probably going to be pretty exciting for you too. Square Enix is continuing to face some trouble, especially from their Japanese side of things, as Hideo Baba is leaving Studio Estolia, and that leaves their next title, Project Prelude Ruin, in a little bit of disarray. Want to go over that. And lastly, great deal on Resident Evil 2 available right now on the PlayStation Store. We'll highlight that at the end of this video. First up, let's go over this interview that the Atlus brand owner had with the Taiwanese website GNN Gamer. A lot of things were highlighted. I do want to note that Persona 5 sales have topped 2.4 million copies worldwide. That's very impressive for a more niche JRPG like this. Yes, a lot of those sales did come from Japan, but a lot of them also came from the West. And the fact that it surpassed 2.4 million copies worldwide, that's very impressive. However, the biggest highlight out of this interview, he talked about the potential of remastering Persona 3 and 4, saying, although we can't specifically tell you anything at the moment, we have always received a lot of suggestions from players. We have received and understood the voices of the players, and if there is an opportunity, we will actively discuss it. That to me says that these two games are in the process of being remastered, but we are not ready to announce them yet. So just wait a little bit. You don't say something like that unless the games are in development or at the very least under consideration. And if they're under consideration, well, eventually they're gonna happen if the demand is strong enough. And based on Persona 5 sales, I would say that the demand is absolutely there. Remember that after the release of Persona 5, while now I wouldn't say that Persona is this mainstream juggernaut of a franchise, a lot more people know about Persona than prior to the release of Persona 5. It's definitely more of a notable franchise than it was, say, 3 to 4 years ago, prior to the release of Persona 5, and now people want to go back and they want to play Persona 3, they want to play Persona 4, but there's really no effective way to do so. Your best bet on playing Persona 4 is honestly to get it on the PlayStation Vita, and at this point, who has a PlayStation Vita? They're not even in production anymore. Persona 3, you can get the PS2 copy of the game on the PlayStation 4, but man, do you understand how much money these two games could make if you bundle Persona 3 FES and Persona 4 Golden in a remastered collection? You could even charge $59.99 for a collection like that. Given the longevity of these games and the high quality of these games, I know that they probably aren't as good as Persona 5. I know some people will make the argument and say that Persona 3 or Persona 4 are better games than Persona 5, but generally, I think the consensus is that Persona 5 is a better game, but that's not saying much. These games are all masterclasses in JRPG development, and we need to have them on the PlayStation 4. More people need to play Persona 3, more people need to play Persona 4, and Persona just needs to be more of a popular franchise, so we don't have to wait, 9 years between Persona games. That was the length of time we had to wait between Persona 3 and Persona 4. Hopefully with more recognition, we can get these games a little bit more consistently, but we shall see. Atlus is pretty busy right now with Persona. We know about Persona 5R, we know about Persona 5S. We don't really know what those games are. The Royal seems to be some sort of expansion. Persona 5S might be a Switch port. Whatever the case may be, the Persona franchise is at an all-time high right now, and I want to see that train continue to move, and with the porting of Persona 3 and 4, remastering rather, I think that would do a lot for Persona going forward, but we shall see, and I'll keep you guys posted on that. Unfortunately, Super Meat Boy Forever will not be dropping sometime in April 2019. That was its original release window. However, the Super Meat Boy team put out a post saying this, quote, "We've been knocking out the last bits of Super Meat Boy Forever at record speeds while keeping a healthy and sustainable pace. We are going to keep that pace, which means we will not hit our April 2019 release. Sorry about that. We could have sacrificed our minds, bodies, and social lives to make April 2019, but that's stupid. Team Meat isn't some studio owned by an evil asshat corporation that has say over what we do and how we do it. We are fortunate enough to have control over how we work, and we choose not to run ourselves into the ground. Game delays blow, we know, but we're close, so it shouldn't be too long of a delay. delay. The next trailer we will drop will have a concrete release date, but until then, we are officially launching after, but not too far after, April 2019. The past weekend, we were telling this to attendees at PAX East, and everyone we told was really cool about it, so we're just gonna assume that they speak for everyone on the internet and say that thank you all for understanding and being cool with this delay. Love Team Meat. So a little bit of a bummer, but I'm all for that. Sometimes I see the crazy hours that video game developers work, and I'm just not all about that. Take your time, sustain your social life, sustain everything that'll keep your mind at ease, and keep working on the game, but if it's a little bit later than April 2019, hey, not too big of a deal. We'll get our hands on it at some point, and there are enough games to play as it is. Next up, Borderlands 3 has been getting a lot of attention right now. Of course, the release isn't far too off either, dropping September 13th. However, a very interesting note came from Matt Cox, lead boss designer on Borderlands 3, saying, quote, "No more fighting for loot in Borderlands 3. We can now choose to have our own personal loot stream if we want." One of my favorite things we announced today, you can still play the classic way too. So if you don't know, if you're playing Borderlands cooperatively, at least in the past, all the loot would be shared in the world. So anybody could grab any kind of loot as long as they had the inventory to hold it. So it kind of made fighting for loot a little bit of a hassle that kind of happens in dungeon crawling titles and games where looting is just a big deal. And it was the same in Borderlands. Was it a game-breaking mechanic? Absolutely not, but now that they're offering the option to have your own personal loot stream, hey, that's a very good option to have, and the best part about it is you can still play the classic way. There is a little bit of novelty, a little bit of nostalgia attached to the classic way to play, and I'm happy that they're still going to keep that in the game. Borderlands 3 is shaping up to be a really great game. While I have my skepticisms over some elements of the game, overall, it's easy to say that my excitement for Borderlands 3 is through the roof, so hopefully it shapes out pretty nicely once it drops September 13th, one of the hotly anticipated games going into the fall. The fall isn't even completely shaped up at this point, but you'd be remiss in thinking if Borderlands 3 wasn't one of the most anticipated games heading into the holiday and fall season. Next up, Square Enix is continuing to face some troubles, especially from the Japanese side of things, as Hideo Baba is leaving the entirety of Studio Estolia as well as Square Enix. Baba joined Square Enix back in October 2016 and became president of the February 2017 established Studio Estolia to work on a new RPG project codenamed Project Prelude Ruin. We got a trailer for that and it looked really good. The art style was awesome and I was super excited for that game. Unfortunately, who knows if that game will be coming to fruition. It was announced back in September of 2018 to be a PlayStation 4 title, and Hideo Baba put out this statement. Accompanying the change in Studio Estolia's management policies, I've resigned as the company's president as of the end of December 2018 and resigned from Square Enix as of the end of March 2019. Thank you again to Square Enix Group for giving me a variety of experiences. I will continue to support everyone from behind the scenes and I sincerely hope for the future growth of Square Enix Group. Baba unfortunately did not share any information about his plans for the future, whether he plans to stay in game development. That was left in uncertainty. However, if you don't know who Hideo Baba is, he's very talented. He worked on a lot of the Tales of games from Bandai Namco, and the fact that he did join Studio Estolia, a new studio, to work on a new RPG project that looked as interesting as Project Prelude Ruin, I thought that had a lot of potential, but again, this just points to another form of uncertainty coming out of Square Enix's way. Square Enix over the last 6 to 9 months, and really going back a lot longer than that, but 6 to 9 months especially, a lot of hit and miss. While we've had games like Kingdom Hearts 3 and Dragon Quest 11, we've had titles like Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Just Cause 4, The Quiet Man, most recently Left Alive, and now Hideo Baba is leaving Studio Estolia. That's just a big bummer. Hopefully they can get back on track, but I've been saying that for a very long time. But hey, if Capcom can rise from the ashes, why can't Square Enix? And lastly, I do want to highlight a great deal on Resident Evil 2, the remake. That is available 34% off at the PlayStation Store for $39.59. This deal has been readily available at all retailers, but I know some of you guys like to get your games digitally, and now you can pick up Resident Evil 2 south of $40, which is a pretty good buy. Of course, I have often said that this is one of the early contenders for Game of the Year, a tremendous game. Yes, it's not super lengthy in terms of all of the content that you get, but this is a game that prioritizes quality over quantity, and that absolutely shows. If you played Resident Evil 2 a lot back in the day and you still remember the layout, you could probably make through this game even quicker, but if you take your time, really appreciate everything that this game has to offer, it is a relatively lengthy experience as you have both the stories of Leon and Claire to go through. They added in some free DLC, and again, Capcom has been doing a tremendous job in gaming. You look at titles like Monster Hunter World, Mega Man 11, Resident Evil 2, and more recently Devil May Cry 5, it's just been gigantic success after gigantic success, and Resident Evil 2 has been one of the best games, if not the best game of 2019. You can make an argument that it's the game of the year thus far in 2019, and at $39.59, of course, I would give it a strong recommendation. And that's gonna conclude this video. It looks like remasters of Persona 3 and Persona 4 on the PlayStation 4 are definitely on the table. It depends on demand from the fans, and I think the demand is absolutely there, and based on the statement that the Atlus brand owner put out, I think it will be happening at some point. Unfortunately, Super Meat Boy Boy Forever won't be happening in April 2019. It's been pushed a little bit farther after that, but it should be coming relatively soon. Borderlands 3 is getting a mechanical change. You can get a personal loot stream and cooperative play if you want, and I think that's pretty good. Hideo Baba is leaving Studio Estolia and Square Enix. That's a bit of a bummer, and Resident Evil 2 discounted right now on the PlayStation Store. That's gonna conclude this video. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.